The boy Wuju was sleeping when he was suddenly awakened by his father's call. He had died, and before leaving this world managed to appear to apologize to his son. Wuju was stunned. The father and son looked at each other, at a loss for words. Wuju, now fully awake, hastily asked why this was happening so suddenly, and what would become of him. He had died from overwork while writing his novel, and now he sheepishly said that he had nothing to leave for his son except for this gift. It was a sparkling key. His father reassured him that he didn't need to worry about anything. The main characters of the web novel his father left behind and their Demon King's army will be his friends. Wuju didn't understand a thing after listening. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. His wall was plastered with bills that needed to be paid. Wuju was now a young man. Looking at these papers, he only felt annoyed. He tore the papers down, angry for being openly looked down upon by them. This situation had been going on for a few months, and he was about to be kicked out of his place. He threw the crumpled ball of paper away. Anyway, life had to go on. When night fell, Wuju was eating instant noodles and watching a commercial for a new product on TV. It was a game titled The Another World based on a web novel, and it was selling out fast. Wuju was bored and didn't want to listen anymore. The legacy his father left behind was the very web novel that was just mentioned, which became a massive hit after being adapted into a game. But that had nothing to do with him. He was still so poor he had overdue bills and ate instant noodles every day. As he was about to change the channel, he heard them talk about how an appendix titled Key was becoming very expensive. It turned out there was a locked book, a product called a secret diary-like lock, and the two hosts on TV were urging customers to buy it quickly before it sold out. However, they sell it without a key, and it's as expensive as a computer. Wuju was dazed for a moment. It was as if he remembered something long forgotten. So, he headed to his father's study, wondering if he might have left an extra one behind. The place was piled high with books and novels his father had left behind. On the bed, there was also a VR headset, and so he began to search the bookshelves. He carefully checked the books one by one. Eventually, he found another, rather special book, a fantasy novel about surviving in a world full of superhumans, and it also had a lock like this. He tried to remember the title of this story. When he was a kid, he used to shorten it to Try Your Best, Live to the Fullest. It was a Munchkin-type story with insane power inflation. A world where even the neighborhood kids could defeat dragons. He was amazed that it was a world where being a Munchkin was commonplace. Putting that aside, the important thing was that with this lock, he believed he could earn some money. With that, he would be able to pay the rent. Thinking this, he fumbled to open the lock. He couldn't help but feel anxious, afraid that it might not open. Finally, a light flashed, so bright that it engulfed him. Wuju screamed from the pain in his eyes, and rolled around the room, cursing non-stop that whoever created this thing was insane. But then, the light vanished. Wuji looked over, and saw that there wasn't a damn thing inside, even his key was gone. He picked up the book, remembering how distinctly heavy it had been, unaware that behind him, a gift notification was appearing on the VR headset. A gift has arrived for Kim Wuju, and that he could open it by pressing the Accept button. Wuju had only just glanced over, when the 3D notification panel instantly transformed, reporting that the daily quest had just been assigned to him. Wuju still couldn't make sense of the situation. As for the key, he would look for it later, believing he must have accidentally knocked it away earlier. Then he picked up the VR headset, wondering if doing this daily quest could earn him a decent meal, and he was also sick of this dull, low-paying life. Unfortunately, he couldn't quit his job. The system prompted him to find a comfortable position, as it was about to connect to the another world. He hadn't forgotten about the key. Although he didn't know its true effect, its performance was so overpowered it would surely fetch a high price on the market. Inside the game, he began to look at the gift. Then, his body was recreated in the game. The poor guy, plagued by bad luck, was now so suspicious that he didn't dare to open the gift. But since the notification kept popping up, he had no choice but to click Accept. Instantly, a light flashed in front of him. Wujo's eyes widened. In front of him stood a bizarre girl. He was startled. Black horns with a red hue, long white hair, the distinctive shoulder symbol, even golden eyes. No way. He immediately called out Lucia, leaving her stunned. How could he possibly know the great Demon King's real name? The final boss of surviving as the strongest in a world of the strongest, the great Demon King Lucia, who gave the hero a hard time until the very end, was her. Too fictional. This game and Lucia's story are clearly completely different. But this girl was too detailed, too real. The Demon Queen immediately asked Wuju who he was and where this was. She still remembered being about to be executed by the hero. Wuju was still dumbfounded, because her voice and demeanor were so authentic. Wuju intended to ignore her, as he still had to do his daily quests, while Lucia was skeptical. She thought that perhaps Wuju was a god. Wuju didn't hesitate to claim he was a god. He was the author's son after all, and reminded the girl that they should leave, as they were near a wyvern's nest. But Lucia wasn't done yet. She wanted to verify this so-called god by asking about the first word she spoke when she was born 30,000 years ago. If he couldn't say it, she would punish him for impersonating a god. That line was so common in stories, so Wuju said, "My magic eyes see everything." Instantly, Lucia knelt down and sobbed, believing she was truly dead. Wuju grew pensive, seeing the suffering girl. Just like him, just like every other player of this game, everyone was stuck in some ironic predicament. Sure enough, a wyvern quickly appeared. Wuju panicked. He was so scared he almost shit his pants. But the iron mask kept his face cold and expressionless in any situation. If he died, he would lose 30% of his experience points in gold, and would no longer be able to pay his rent and bills. Would anyone save him? Lucia found this creature to be truly stupid and noisy. Wuju came up with an idea. He then gave a short speech. "I can't lie to someone with magical eyes like you, so yes, as you said, I am God. But a god cannot use their power in this world. Could you handle those creatures for me?" It was cheesy, but to survive he had to stick to the concept. But Lucia refused, which made Wuju furious. It turned out she couldn't use her powers either. The heroes had used a dirty trick to seal the invincible Lucia. Who cares? Wuju immediately turned tail and ran for his life. In reality, he wanted to leave the crazy woman behind as bait and escape himself. But his low luck stat ended up making him the bait instead. Lucia laughed at this foolish act. Then she revealed that the heroes had made a mistake, because even though Lucia couldn't use her own power, she could still grant it to others. With that said, purple light from her horns shot up into the sky. This was how she had created the army of hell. Lucia transferred her power to Wuju and told him to try using it. He was quickly enveloped by a powerful purple energy. His footsteps became lighter. His whole body felt lighter. His speed increased to a supersonic level. In a flash he vanished from the sight of the starving wyverns. Lucia saw the circular spatial rift overhead, thinking he had gone there. She knew it was a place where living beings couldn't breathe, so she thought it was the divine realm. Wuju was also a bit confused. What the hell is this place? Was he suddenly thrown into outer space while racing a wyvern? Now he couldn't breathe and was freezing stiff. Wuju started gasping for air and choking. Then he slipped and returned to his previous spot under Lucia's sparkling gaze. While Wuju was still dazed, Lucia immediately asked how he felt after receiving her blessing of strength. The wyvern was already lunging to bite. He ran again. The wyvern missed its target again. Maybe he would return to the space. But he kept appearing and disappearing, then disappeared again. Appeared. It was as if he was lagging, which made the wyverns lose their patience. The entire swarm of wyverns decided to rush in all at once. Wuju remembered Lucia's unique ability, the one that grants power. Wuju was slightly startled, because the story associated with the character Lucia was clearly from his dad's favorite genre of overpowered novels. Even a neighborhood kid could catch a dragon in that world. His father had once worried that having the child defeat a dragon right in Volume 1 was a bit over the top. Lucia was the strongest of the strong, making the power gap too large. That was also the reason why, in just a single leap, he was out in space, and kept repeating it. That means the game's balance has been destroyed. At this thought, Wuju broke out in a cold sweat. In the game, his character was surrounded on all sides by wyverns. Wuju called out to Lucia, saying this power was too hard to use, and asking if there was another way. Lucia angrily said, "How can a god like you ask such a question? Punch the sky so the ground won't crack." Indeed, this was also a rule in his father's novel, Earth-Loving, so he threw a punch at the sky to protect the ground. The sound could be heard from outer space. What a massive impact! Lucia assessed that the strike hadn't even left the solar system. This power was only on par with a mid-boss from a local dungeon. More importantly, the place was almost wiped out, and he started to worry about his mission. Only 7 minutes left to find 5 wyvern eggs. Then he waved goodbye to Lucia. He exclaimed that it was a close call, but then he remembered something and stopped in his tracks. By the way, he asked Lucia to dispel the power for him, afraid he would be launched into space again. Exasperated, Lucia looked up at the sky. This magic was no joke. Then she burst out laughing, saying that the magic was in fact permanent. What the? Wuju had absolutely no idea about this. Great, just great. Now he doesn't dare risk his life to take a step, as any moment of inattention could be fatal. Wyvern Gorge. That day, the Wyvern Gorge turned into ruins, but after a week, the greatness of nature breathed life back into the barren land. Wuju heard a noise and turned around. He saw a group of players celebrating joyfully, as there were no wyverns left to stop them from doing their quests. The unlucky Wuju could only watch in envy. He hadn't been able to take a single step for a week. Back to 1 week ago. One step would send him flying into a void, but he hadn't given up yet. Even being deeply in debt, having his wages withheld, being bullied, and living in despair couldn't make him surrender. Wuju believed that he still had his intellect. The cause of that incident was that he had stomped the ground too hard. So what if he tried to step very gently? On his own, he developed an overpowered skill called airwalk, but something happened the moment his foot touched down. The genius Wuju was launched straight off the earth like a bullet. So, since even a light touch would launch him into space, he decided to create a contact area with zero force. By smoothly dragging my feet backward, it becomes what's called a moonwalk. What the? How ridiculous. At this point, the only thing left is for him to sprout wings and start flapping. He doesn't even have real wings, and yet he's already flying like that. Wuju sighed, finding the situation ridiculously absurd. But just a single sigh was enough to send him flying far away. Wuju desperately needed someone to sympathize with him right now. Of course, not this bitch, who was laughing to tears over the so-called airwalk and moonwalk, considering it the greatest farce in the demon world. Did the demon lord really not know this was her fault? She was the most powerful character of all time, so much so that she even gave the author PTSD. He even almost forgot how to defeat this demon lord, while Wuju was merely a character who had been granted her powers. As for Lucia, she was just hoping for more fun. Wuju thought that perhaps he himself was the cause of the problem, because after all, he was the one who started this, and then opened a different limited edition novel, not the one advertised on TV, and everything that happened after that unfolded like this. You could say that Demon Queen Lucia's appearance here was his doing. He told himself that he had to find a way to break this damn curse. The bad news is that this effect doesn't wear off. It is permanent. Of course, the power would also disappear if she died, but she belongs to an immortal race. Just when Wuju thought he was out of options, he realized something upon hearing those words. It would all be over if she just died. Wuju sharply called out Lucia's name. He called that name over and over again. Then he asked her if she had any regrets, because he was now going to smash that arrogant face of hers. Before there was even time to praise this spirit, he vanished on the spot. Lucia didn't understand where he had gone. It turned out Wuju had simply logged out. He needed to find a way to deal with it. He felt the key, which was inexplicably still hanging around his neck. Putting aside the reason why this necklace returned, Wuju now had another chance to try again. He then rushed to find the original work in his father's room. The only way to defeat her was to summon a character stronger than Lucia. He quickly skimmed through the books, looking for the most suitable genre and hero. He had always been the first one to review his father's stories. Frantically flipping through the books, he had to find Lucia's archenemy, the strongest one, but someone controllable, not a reckless madman. Ah, here it is. A story from a dangerous genre. He had to overcome this crisis, or his life would be on the line. And then the light flashed again. The opened book was blank. He had received a gift again, just like the last time. He just had to press the accept button. Wuju hurriedly logged into the game. But this time, he wanted to check if the gift had some kind of timing, like with Lucia, who was summoned right at the moment she was about to be executed by the hero. The timing would affect the attributes of the character he summoned. First, he would find a safe place to check, since he couldn't move. The destination is the sparsely populated bipedal snowfield. The snow here falls, blanketing the sky. He opens the reward panel. He presses accept. A light flashed, and this was the killer, named Zero. The man looked at him strangely. His timing is easier to read than Lucia's, confirmed by the assassin rank on his shoulder. Still only 2 stars. This must be him from before he escaped the training camp. This is the only assassin from his father's novel who was absurdly overpowered. He awakens to 5-star after leaving the assassin organization by moving back and forth 3 billion times across the battlefield with just a single thread and severing the necks of 30 billion people. What's more absurd is that he did it in a mere 0.000001 seconds. Furthermore, his agility was 10 trillion times the speed of light. This method was also too risky, but Wuju had no other choice. There was no better bait than this guy to eliminate that foolish demon king. Zero was an emotionless demon with only killing intent, and that was exactly what he needed. Then, he opened his inventory and looked for some items, but Zero began to stand up. He disappeared on the spot. A silver thread wrapped around Wuju's neck. Zero wanted to kill him. He immediately said that this was just a gift. When Wuju clicked it, Zero suddenly had new clothes on, so he stepped back. In Zero's assassin training camp, everyone was naked. Zero had never been able to wear clothes. Wuju could only feel sorry for him. Wuju said he hoped that Zero was feeling warmth for the first time. Zero was curious about what he was wearing, but he said nothing, then turned to Wuju, looking at Wuju with wide eyes, like a puppy looking at its owner. Wuju told him to come closer, suddenly remembering that he himself sometimes spouted cringy otaku-like lines. He explained that if he were to walk away, it would be very bad for Zero. So he needed to get close, but that was too close. Anyway, it all started when a female researcher named Laura freed Zero. Since then, Zero began to feel warmth for the first time. As a result, even in moments when he was on the verge of turning into a demon during fierce battles, Zero was a cyclical character who returned to his original self thanks to the warmth she had passed on to him. Now, he would be the Laura of Zero's life. Following the storyline, Zero was triggered and immediately moved, while Wuju felt a little guilty. As a reward for your suffering in the training camp, you were supposed to have a beautiful heroine and a bright future awaiting you. But just as Zero decided to live on, he got swept up in this demonic transformation. Wuju was definitely the #1 person who needed to be killed. In general, the kid had no awareness of gender, so his feelings were the same regardless. This scarf is a premium item, won't let you feel cold anymore. And Zero said his first word, yes. The novel's theme is assassination. On top of that, his father also mixed in a genre that was far from mainstream. The killers still love today, and it turned out to be a romance novel. Anyway, it was a success, but Wuju still felt a little guilty. But oh well, just like a duckling accepting the first thing it sees as its parent, the imprinting effect will disappear soon enough, so it's fine. So until then, you must be a loyal dog. Because of that damn X key, I haven't been able to complete the daily quest for a whole week. Wuju started asking Zero to come along, but there was one problem. He was only level 2 and couldn't capture Lucia yet, so he needs to train to level up. And this right here is his training. Snow rabbits. Each one is as big as a building, and they're coming in a whole swarm. Wuju was scared shitless, but his face was completely expressionless. Zero trembled a little, and he had no idea what was going on either. Damn it, is he shaking from laughter? Alright, Wuju instantly felt himself grow stronger. This reaction truly annoyed him, just like when he saw that fool Lucia laughing in his face. He orders Zero to step back. He's going to show off his power a little. Watch carefully, the consequences of angering me. I hope the earth doesn't shatter. A fist aimed at the sky, but before he could even throw a punch, the monsters all burrowed into the ground to hide, or was it because he was too strong? Damn it, they weren't hiding, they're attacking from underground. Great. Now he can't attack the ground, otherwise the earth will shatter. Wuju is so scared he's about to pee his pants again. Zero, his loyal dog, is laughing out loud at his master's misfortune. He laughed hysterically nonstop, but then suddenly, he felt something. His scarf was drenched by the snow from the rabbits. He wasn't happy. No, he was angry to the point of tears, marking a true awakening. In just 0.000000001 seconds, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, he has truly awakened the power of a 5-star ultimate assassin. At this moment, Wuju was about to be hit. Suddenly, a thread slashed through the air. Countless flashes of light appeared. A single cut could generate this much power, and this is 100 trillion cuts. What the? Wuju still didn't understand how he could launch this ultimate, as he was only a 2-star. But looking closely at his arm, he saw that he had reached 5-star. Surprisingly, they were gradually fading, and then disappeared. Wuju didn't understand why he was so happy after using all the stars. Now how can I catch Lucia? At the Bippy snowfield, only Wuju and Zero were left all alone. The weather was extremely cold. With 0 stars left, Wuju scolded Zero for being completely useless now, since his opponent was Lucia, a great demon king. It's just that he was still curious how that fool managed to use the 100 trillion slashes ultimate. He then decided to leave, telling Zero to wait. Zero stared wide-eyed as his master disappeared. Afterwards he sat there motionlessly, waiting, but not for long. A horde of winged wild boar beasts appeared, surrounding him. This horde was called Ice Bat, a type of E-grade monster. In Zero's eyes, he believed these monsters were here to steal his clothes. and his master would mistake them for him and raise them instead. Thus, fear turned into fury, and Zero once again threw ultimate at them. Back at his house, Wuju was busy looking for a way to quickly train the assassin. He believed that he hadn't missed any hints. If he couldn't complete the mission, he would surely starve to death. His empty stomach was already growling. Perhaps eating instant noodles was still a solution. So he went out, go to a convenience store. In a nearby alley, a few friends were chatting about a strange news report. The Bippable snowfield was closed off because the area had suddenly transformed, and many players had fallen to their deaths. A friend of theirs had also fallen to her death just because she wanted to get materials from the snow rabbit to craft a Prada coat. The girl suddenly wanted a smoke but had no cigarettes, so she was looking for someone to buy them for her. Suddenly, they saw a guy walking by. They knew him, as he was famous in class for being an errand boy. You just had to give him some spare change. He was good looking, but his personality was a bit strange. These bad girls decided to call him over. Wuju heard someone calling him. Turns out it was those asshole classmates of his. They immediately asked him to buy cigarettes for them. But he also noticed that there was another girl he knew behind them, but she didn't look happy and told him to just mind his own business. Wuju immediately demanded back the book that Suk-hai had borrowed from his father. The friends were surprised, wondering if the two were best friends or perhaps dating. Just then, Wuju grabbed the hand of his friend, who was glued to her phone, and pulled her down, landing on top of her. As a delivery truck sped past right where she had just been standing, the black-haired girl cursed loudly, calling him a reckless driving bastard. But what about the other guy? They seemed to have just seen something unusual. The blonde girl, pinned under Wuju, sobbed. She had only ever thought of him as an errand boy bookworm. In Ji-hai's eyes, Wuju was glowing with a romantic pink aura, but in reality, he was yelling at her to show him her phone. The article was about the setting of the Bippidor snowfield. He realized that when a novel's setting is adapted into a game, there will be many changes. The black-haired girl, not understanding the mood, said Suk-hai should explain her relationship with Wuju, but Suk-hai said there was nothing to tell. Meanwhile, Wuju was devouring the article, starting to talk aloud about the Demon King Lucia, and he declared that he needed to review the original design documents for Androkimida. Hearing this, Suk-hai was startled. She was stunned for a moment, then walked over, trembling. Wuju knew Suk-hai was a big fan of his father, so she must have known about the character Lucia. Then he continued to search for any settings related to activating Zero's awakening. Hearing this, Suk-hai could no longer stay silent. She rushed forward and declared that no such thing existed, as she had already checked everything online. Wuju scoffed, saying that he still remembered some things his father had written on his days off. They were the initial background setting documents, scattered all over the desk. Then he hurried away, but the other two insisted on following. But no, poor Wuju didn't give them that chance. Only Suk-hai was angry. She thought she had understood Wuju's father's work very well. If those unreleased background settings were real, then she absolutely had to see them. Suddenly, her phone rang. The person on the other end was Jason. He reported that the coordinates to Wyvern Canyon had been set. As instructed, he would eliminate the malevolent presence. Meanwhile, at Bippidal Alley, that fool Zero was still sitting there, after wiping out the monsters. But my clothes got dirty. Zero grew anxious. Could it be that he had failed the mission? A memory took him back to the past, where strangers had trained him with whips and starved him. They said that the useless would be eliminated. Zero collapsed in fear. He remembered that his master had also called him that same word, useless. At this moment, another horde of monsters arrived to cause trouble. No, it was a 12-member party from the Griffin Squad. They didn't know what kind of creature was below, as his player information panel displayed nothing. Furthermore, with so many monster corpses below, this person was too suspicious, so they decided to attack first. All of Griffin aimed at Zero and opened fire. The soldier above confirmed there were no signs of life. Unexpectedly, a shadow flashed past behind him. His teammate beside him immediately opened fire to protect him, and sure enough, it hit Zero's back. Then he free fell downwards, to the astonishment of the other players. They believed that this monster, after fighting the ice bats, was already weakened, and only now could it truly be finished off. The group decided to leave before they conducted a thorough investigation of this snowfield. In Zero's mind, he still remembered his master's words, telling him to wait here. So his eyes snapped open, suddenly grabbed onto the stone pillar, shocking the players, who had thought he was dead. But no, he was climbing back up. They continued to attack Zero, aiming straight for his back. Zero, through sheer willpower, was determined to fulfill his master's instructions. And so, even though he was continuously being attacked, he continued to crawl frantically. His only motivation was the incredibly cheesy words Wuju had said. He would climb, even if he was exhausted. He would not give up, because giving up was the same as him betraying the only person who cared about him. He gritted his teeth, using all his might, trying to rush to the top of the stone pillar. Countless bullets were flying towards him. In his mind, only the image remained of when Wooju gave him the scarf. What a pity. He couldn't hold on any longer. His eyes closed. His hand lost all its strength. Then, at that very moment, another hand reached out, grabbed his hand, and a familiar voice scolded him, calling him an idiot. When it's dangerous, you're supposed to hide, so why are you standing here taking it? It was Wooju. Feeling wronged, Zero was on the verge of tears, but then heard his comforting words, that he had kept his word after all, and had done a good job. At that, Zero burst into tears for real, as countless bullets hurtled straight towards them. Suddenly, Zero's arm lit up. Stars appeared one by one. 2 stars? That's fine. Wooju told them not to worry as he had plenty of other clothes, then pulled Zero up to the top of the pillar. Wooju knew these griffins were an outsourced investigation firm, so confronting them directly would be a hassle since they had connections with the manager. So he flicked his hand. The bullets, under the violent force of the whirlwind, were pulled upwards. Seeing this, the crowd began to suspect that this person was the real culprit. Wooju turned around, wanting to use the griffin's own bullets to bend their trajectory. He performs a strike into space. Instantly, these bullets hit all the surrounding griffins. Of course, the universe was also greatly affected, not small at all. Seeing this, Lucia commented that the fool, despite being weak, was very noisy, truly interesting, and he even had a useful subordinate with him. How did she know? She has this eye. Even his father has to fear it. Therefore, she looked through many dimensions and saw everything. She will form the Archdemon Legion to conquer this world. Suddenly, a light struck down on the ground. A stranger appeared, right in front of Lucia. The stranger confirmed a malevolent presence, declaring he would destroy it at once. Just like many other games, this terrain will also regenerate after being destroyed. The designers even created outer space. It was such a realistic game, but Wooju felt ashamed of himself for now being no different from a monster. The power he possessed was nothing short of a curse. Luckily, that foolish woman had left him a clue to escape this curse. Wooju asked Zero if he was ready. He believed that assassination had a higher chance of success than confronting the Demon Queen head-on. He recalled a chapter from Zero's story. The assassin Zero had attempted to assassinate an immortal. At first, the immortal vampire didn't even bother to resist, but soon enough he realized his mistake. Because Zero's 3-star skill can only be used on a single person, yet it can kill not only the body, but also the soul and consciousness of the victim. Lucia would surely be taken down by this permanent death. Zero has only regained 2 stars. Luckily, Wooju found a way for Zero to grow in his father's office. It was rage. When Laura was fatally injured in the final stage, Zero went into extreme rage, but since he was already awakened, it wasn't noticeable. In short, the keyword is rage. But this guy seems to be having fun, doesn't he? Wooju then reminded him that his attitude needed to be more serious. An assassin shouldn't have such a bright expression. And Zero also needed to be angrier with himself, to push himself harder. While Zero only said the word smile more forcefully, and Wooju kept urging him to hurry up and get angry, but it seemed like it wasn't working, because Zero was on the verge of tears. This was definitely the wrong approach. Wooju recalled the moment he gave the scarf to Zero, thinking that this was the key to the problem. He then changed his tactic, saying that this assassination was a bet for that scarf. This immediately made Zero worried. Wooju added that the other guy would demand the scarf back, even though he had already gifted it to him. Sure enough, upon hearing this, Zero turned red with rage. His arm also started to glow. Another star appeared on his shoulder. He finally had all 3 stars. And so, the 2 of them immediately headed to Wyvern Canyon. When they arrived, it was a place with no wyverns. After looking around for that foolish girl, they saw she was being choked by a man in yellow, and was repeatedly shouting slogans protesting violence. The blonde man warily turned around, because Zero had charged in at an incredible speed, attacking the other guy directly. The blonde was completely baffled. A flurry of blows pushed the blonde man back, inadvertently rescuing Lucia. The blonde man declared it was an attempt to PK a player. Wooju had to tell him to stop, saying he had the wrong person. The strange thing was that the guy took so many hits, yet remained completely unscathed. He questioned why he was getting in his way. His job, a mission to eliminate a disruptive presence, according to a report he had received. Wooju completely agreed with that, and he wanted to know what Wooju's intentions were. He accused Wooju of being the first to PK. It turned out he hadn't seen Zero, and just thought the attacker was Wuju. Before coming here, he had told Zero to stay hidden, to strike fast and retreat quickly, due to his low stamina. Suddenly, Lucia, who was lying on the ground, cursed the blonde guy, calling him an idiot. That what else could this situation be? Right in front of him was her proud demon king. What a weirdo. Lucia then reminded them that the other guy had claimed to be God. That's right, Wuju had acted like a god in front of Lucia. She really didn't need to make the situation worse. She just had to die. Of course, this startled the blonde guy, who demanded a detailed explanation. Before the situation worsened, Wuju quickly said that he was just hitting that crazy woman but had accidentally hit the wrong person. The blonde guy almost believed it, but very quickly, he lunged at Wuju in an instant. He couldn't forgive someone who dared to attack first, without even letting him introduce himself. He grandly proclaimed that he was the CEO of the Just One company, one of the few players who had unlocked this game with a limited edition key. Jackson, that's his name, also a famous top ranker in this game. His company specializes in high-risk missions, through which he has amassed a fortune, and he's the CEO too. He declared that Wuju was too rude. He didn't even show any expression after hearing his renowned name, so Jackson decided to teach him a lesson he'll never forget. Wuju was desperate. His life was boring enough already, and he couldn't even complete his daily quests. He had a bit of power, but couldn't use it. Meanwhile, Zero was still hiding, waiting for a signal, while she was waiting to be killed. Now he started thinking about the instant ramen he hadn't finished. But the other guy's attack missed, then missed again. Somehow he managed to dodge it. Jackson was furious, thinking he was showing off for dodging by pure luck. He immediately launched a finishing blow, but it also missed. The reason for this was thanks to Zero's manipulation from afar. Using a technique called wire marionette, Jackson was seeing red. He didn't let Wuju speak, instead continuously attacking. Wuju asked if this was a PK, but the other guy said it had nothing to do with PK. This is called a 1v1 duel, and since Wuju attacked first, he couldn't complain. Wuju asked if it would also be within the rules if he killed him, of course, and Jackson launched a punch at close range, straight into his face. In this situation, Zero couldn't help, but the Demon Queen scorned him for being too slow. At that very moment, Wuju's punch hit Jackson's armor. A light flashed, growing bigger and bigger. Hold on tight, let's take a trip to the universe. The pillar of light pierced through Jackson and shot straight into the sky. Jackson grimaced. His whole body was pierced by the exploding pillar of energy. Wow, an incredibly terrifying pressure. The energy dissipated, vanished. Wow. Jackson wondered if that was the power of destruction, but why didn't he take a single point of damage from it? Damn it, it feels like someone is manipulating Wuju's life and making it miserable. On the other side, the nosy Zero ran out right after that Lucia. Jackson asked him if he was surprised that such a strong hit didn't deal any damage. He taunted him, saying that he was only pretending to be calm. Wuju then pointed to his face and said it was because of the mask from the shop. Who cares? Jackson was pissed off. Just then, the system announced Battle Showdown. The winner receives a random amount of gold from the opponent and one random item, while the loser will have their character deleted. As long as both parties agree, the system allows players to compete with each other. Player killing is legal in this mode, and betting on character deletion is also allowed. He remembered that there was also the option of a draw. Wuju wasn't free and rich enough to delete his character and create a new one, so he decided to try and win. Then he touched Jackson's thunderous punch. The punch was instantly blocked. Normally, outsiders couldn't interfere in this 1v1 duel, but Zero, a being from another world, was an exception. This meant that Wuju was defending with Zero's ability and dealing damage with his own strength. Wuju tried to hold back his strength. Just like before, Jackson felt as if his entire body was being torn apart. The blow sent him flying dozens of meters away, then thousands of kilometers, then tens of thousands of kilometers, and then back to the original spot. Jackson himself couldn't understand what the hell had just happened. This kid was insanely strong, making him travel once around the earth. It turns out this kid was the truly dangerous one here. Wuju realized that this punch had no effect at all. Jackson wasn't very surprised. He confidently said that he was still on the front page of this web game because of his rank. Wuju bluntly said that he didn't care about rankings. These words immediately made the pay-to-win guy feel insulted, thinking that Wuju was looking down on him. Wuju didn't mean that, but Jackson didn't believe it, thinking that a high ranker like him must have a good grasp of human nature. Then he lectured Wuju, saying that getting excited over a little hope would cause him to make mistakes, and that was exactly who Wuju was. With no other choice, Wuju had to pretend to cry and admit that he was indeed like that. Alright, it was time for Jackson to let him know. The punch from before dealt no damage at all. Wooju figured it must be because of the high-grade item he was wearing. Jackson even offered his face for another hit, aiming to crush Wooju's will. Of course, he punched him right away. Still a terrifying punch, directly piercing the atmosphere. And this time it dealt 1 damage. That's an achievement in itself. That's right. Even though Jackson's whole body was still trembling, he forced a smile and said that any form of attack would only deal 1 damage. This is one of the key restricted abilities in this game. He became a ranker solely with this ability. His HP is 120,000, and he challenged him to see if his HP would run out first, or he would die first. Wooju understood immediately upon hearing that. Just 1 touch deducts 1 of the opponent's HP. Wooju's touch was very light, just enough to reduce his HP, while Jackson believed he was so overwhelmed that he couldn't fight properly. Lucia thought it was a super pathetic ability. Even if it only takes 1 HP per hit, you just have to keep hitting him until he dies. And so that bitch started cheering again, calling him the Demon King's army. He had the same idea as Lucia. Every successful hit deducts 1 HP. He knew the origin of this armor. The boss in Colossa Volume 2 wore a suit of armor called Golden Armor. It was a cheat item that automatically regenerated 1 HP every 0.001 seconds. It seems Jackson himself knew nothing about this. Wooju, however, had already found a way to counter it. He commanded Zero, activate attack mode. Instantly, the threads whipped up into the air, and then burst apart. It was a special move. Midsummer Night's Winter Rain. It was a wide-area technique that consumed 2 assassin stars by cutting and scattering mana into the surrounding threads. Wooju decided to bet everything on this victory. Under the rain of mana shards, the blonde-haired man continuously lost 1 HP. Jackson realized this move was truly troublesome. The most troublesome thing about it was, each attack has a knockback effect, preventing him from getting close enough to counterattack. This technique attacks more than 1,000 times per minute. In about 10 minutes, the match will end, so Wooju advises his opponent to hurry and think of a plan. Jackson now wants to know more about the Golden Armor. Wooju then explains that it belongs to the final boss of Episode 2 of the work, The Killer Loves Today, created by Andro Kimida. Thanks to the armor's absurdly high-speed regeneration, he can maintain peak condition even when under relentless attack. Similar to his infinite health, Rancor, but Wooju managed to defeat him with the ultimate move, Midsummer Night's Winter Rain. Now he understands. Wooju asks if he is a fan of the creator, wondering why he is so interested in the Golden Armor. He just laughs, saying no way, because he knows the armor and its creator well. That's why he will never lose. Then he flexed, declaring that the Golden Armor in Wooju's mouth was the very thing he was wearing. Damn it, did his dad really use an item idea from another story in this game world? What a ripoff. Actually, he had never read the original work for this game, his father's final work after his passing. Because he had overworked himself for that project, he considered it the job that had stolen his father away. I can't believe he recycled ideas like this. In the game, the blonde guy called him an insecure brat and asked why he wasn't reacting. He repeated that he was the one wearing the golden armor. Then he decided to show him directly that his HP was still increasing. He gained +1 health every 0.1 seconds. This was what made him invincible. Jackson looked smugly at the miserable kid, asking if he still wanted to try. Suddenly, he received an email from Sukhai, his classmate. She asked where he was because she had something to tell him. All right. He understood that attacking like this was useless. Told Zero to stop. The match has been decided. Jackson smugly watched as his opponent surrendered. Wooju said it was useless to try any further. Meanwhile, Lucia smiled knowingly. She said that he was on the right track. In fact, he had decided to end this fight with a single blow. Wooju's relentless barrage of attacks stopped. It seemed Lucia had figured out his intention. Jackson, however, was a bit clueless and didn't understand anything. Wooju declared that continuing to fight would be meaningless. Jackson now felt that this kid didn't understand the consequence. If he lost, he would have to delete his character. Zero couldn't take it anymore, and rushed to the female demon lord, intending to say something, but Lucia said there was no need to cause a scene. She told Zero not to worry, as Wooju's spirit had not been broken yet. Instead, it would be better to trust him. Suddenly, Wooju said that Jackson was mistaken, and that he was the real winner here. But of course, he wanted to grant Jackson mercy, a remark that made Jackson Jackson's eyes widen in fury. Then Wooju asked him if he wanted to settle for a draw. Jackson yelled at him to shut his mouth, then lunged forward, cutting through the wind. It was also because he was in a hurry, so he had to end it quickly. Seeing him open his email in the middle of the fight, Jackson grew even more furious, declaring, "You won't even have time to write a will." In reality, he just wanted to unblock some spam mail. There must have been up to 1 million spam emails over the past 10 years. Then he clicked to unblock all of them at once. Jackson landed a devastating punch. Lucia casually watched from the sidelines, believing there was still nothing to worry about. Jackson's attack was so simple, Wooju could dodge it without even needing Zero's power. Next, he grabbed tightly onto Jackson's arm. Jackson didn't understand. While Wooju said he was waiting for spam mail to arrive, Wooju decided to share a little bit so this idiot could understand. The misunderstanding was, in fact, due to Wooju's emotionless mask. He started playing the game after his family broke apart, so he created this customization in a fit of anger. Now he would show Jackson his true face. Right after that, he felt as if he had been blinded. Even Lucia was almost scared to death, and she liked men like that. A perfect match for the Demon King of Hell. But could this guy really be the Demon King of Hell? If so, Lucia would be more than willing to get married. Bought enough time, Wooju told the other guy to look down. Jackson was so scared he almost passed out, determined not to let this kid die easily. Then he threw a punch with all his might, wanting to punch him into dust. Wooju warned him that millions of emails were on their way. Why should he care? The loser of this match would have their character deleted, that's all. And why? Because he had set his email alerts to vibrate. When the millions of emails arrived, they generated millions of touches on Jackson's body. What the? 1 million emails was the equivalent of a blow that would kill Jackson instantly. And this finishing move, Wooju named it the Spam Vibrator Destroyer. And just like that, no item could have restored Jackson's HP in time. The massive impact of the vibrations from 1 million spam emails. It was just a moment, but it created a giant ripple that spread throughout the universe. That event not only awakened a dark egg that would bring a great disaster to the game, but it also highlighted the existence of the dust-like solar system. Although the move was a bit ridiculous, it was cool enough to make Lucia tremble. Zero was speechless, standing rooted to the spot. And finally, Jackson's HP dropped to 0. He instantly disintegrated into dust. Wooju let out a breath. He discovered the golden armor item that had been dropped on the ground. Wooju picked it up, a precious and sparkling item. He decided to put it on immediately. The other two were going to come and celebrate, but they started clutching their stomachs and laughing their asses off. Because, I'm probably going to die laughing too, for fuck's sake. With Suk-hai's friends, she just found out Jackson had been beaten up, while this friend of hers was completely obsessed with the dreamboat image of Wooju, making her unable to play her game. She then honestly told Suk-hai that she had been thinking about Wooju all day. Damn it. That night, at Wooju's humble apartment, that girl had decided to show up, while Wooju adamantly refused to date. He believed this girl was just kidding, and slammed the door shut because he still had a game quest to do. But he opened the door again to ask if he could change his job after this incident. While the girl trembled with anger, unable to restrain herself, the girl stormed out, opening her phone, deciding to teach the bastard who dared to reject her a lesson. She would gather all her guild members. Wooju thought that she had actually left. On second thought, she was an important client, and his attitude just now was a bit much. Poor Wooju continued to slurp his noodles, thinking that if she had brought a meal, they would surely be on a date by now. Suddenly remembering something, he saw the door wasn't fully closed, clinging to the faint hope that maybe she had brought a meal after all. Then he opened the door, a sight that nearly blinded him, because the visitor was his beautiful and furious landlady, and she was there to collect the rent. At Wyvern Canyon, he had returned with his comrades. After criticizing him for being the Demon King who's always late, Lucia became flustered at the thought that he was her future husband. Wooju immediately went into battle mode, wanting to finish off this rambling madwoman. He ordered Zero. This made Zero a little confused. Wooju believed that even as a 1-star, Zero still had a chance. Clearly, she had no power to resist. She came here with her powers sealed by a hero, and so, Zero could do it. Unexpectedly, Zero pulled Lucia closer to Wooju. What is this guy thinking? It seemed like he was trying to help the two of them reconcile. How disappointing. Wooju turned around, threw a punch towards Lucia. The force of the punch was extremely terrifying, so powerful that it was like this, but it was clearly blocked. Damn it. This idiot is persistently trying to mediate. I can't believe an assassin with this peace-loving face is getting in my way. By the way, his power was blocked by Zero's level 1 attack. Could it be that this power is fading away? Very well, Wuju will take his leave. Damn it. Lucia put her arm around his shoulder and praised his effort to make her happy. Lucia also realized that the children summoned by Wuju's infinity's key seemed to be forming a strange bond. How on earth did she know this? Then, Lucia granted him a blessing. Entrance guide. 10 gold fee, not responsible for lost belongings. Participants must bring their own weapons and equipment. Turns out that bitch demon King Lucia created the SSS rank Wyvern's Abyss dungeon. Wuju was a little emotional. Could it be that he was standing right at a historical moment, the revival of the Demon King? If this dungeon prospers, the game will end in despair. All of this was because Wuju had brought Zero, creating a Demon King army with more than 2 members. Lucia praised Wuju's great contribution and called him a child of God. Wuju wasn't happy at all. He immediately wanted to push Lucia's hand away, not acknowledging the so-called Demon King or her subordinate. Lucia shyly said it was just because Wuju was her future husband. Wuju was so fed up. Anyway, he couldn't stop her from creating this dungeon. The impoverished Wuju began to seriously reconsider whether he should continue playing this game. Suddenly, Lucia said that this was a business opportunity. Wuju didn't understand. Lucia explained that dungeons were places with countless opportunities for adventurers to get rich. The only thing was, she didn't have any treasure, but she could still create a dungeon and charge an entrance fee. Even selling recovery potions could make a fortune. She urged Wuju to hurry up and get to work. Wuju, with his 500 IQ, declared that he would not be tempted by her honeyed words. He would not be blinded by money. Then Wuju took the items and put on his new gear. He was ready to dive into the work of a dungeon digger immediately. And then the two of them jumped into the lake to dig the dungeon. Lucia continued, using her creation power to fire it straight into the pit they were working on. The pit glowed brilliantly, revealing another one beside it, and then many more. Damn it, Wuju swore, seeing how many more pits there were to dig. There were really too many pits. Meanwhile, that demon queen was just yawning lazily, not doing anything. She even urged the 2 miserable servants to work faster, since they had only dug the first level. Then came the frantic sound of shoveling. Wuju was diligently digging the ground. In return for the scorn of that bitch for his slowness. The feeling at this moment was like being subjected to hard labor until death. Suddenly, a group of players appeared above his head. The blonde girl, Wuju's classmate, angrily declared that because he dared to reject her confession, she would now make him regret it. Her entire guild had arrived to teach Wuju a lesson. Wuju was surprised because there were so many people. The girl in the air immediately began casting a magic spell, declaring that if Wuju changed his mind, she could still withdraw. It was annoying, being surrounded by the arguing freshmen. But then he remembered, it wasn't that feeling, but rather, excitement. Dungeon, where adventurers risked their lives in exchange for valuable rewards. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. But they are truly undermanned for such a massive task. On top of that, that foolish girl is still threatening Wuju. This sight made the useless guy excited. Lucia was even trembling at the sight of Wuju's ugly face once more. The blonde girl said they would now have a 4-on-1 showdown, and the winner could ask for anything. Only a fool would agree to that, especially when her side has 4 people. But Wuju decided to ask her again, just to be sure. The girl's teammate thought that even if they won, they wouldn't get anything from that beggar, and if they won, it would also be a great shame. The female mage in the back seemed to have figured something out, guessing that her crazy friend must have had her confession rejected. The blonde girl kept urging Wuju to quickly agree to join the showdown. He just wondered why the first-year guildmaster could only mobilize this many people, then asked where Sukai was. This remark made the blonde girl boil with anger, shouting at him to shut up. She believed that this guy had really fallen for Sukai. Her teammates realized they had been dragged into a matter of love revenge. But it was too late. The only way was to urge Wuju to accept the duel to end this quickly. Wuju agrees. And so, the showdown. The 4-on-1 fight is about to begin. The blonde girl casts a magic orb. It floats leisurely through the air, but it startles Lucia. She couldn't recall what skill it was. Wuju had thought it was a long-range attack. Surprisingly, the orb wasn't aimed at him, but directly at the F-rank turtle beside him. Wuju vaguely watched this scene. In the blink of an eye, the turtle grew larger, transforming into a powerful A-rank monster. It turned out Jaihe possessed the evolution mage class. She proudly said, "That's right, it's a rare class in this world." Then she immediately directed the turtle to destroy him. This ability was quite troublesome, but Wuju was confident, as he had defeated even a wyvern before. While Lucia from behind screamed at him not to kill the turtle, but to capture it instead. She added that Wuju's main mission was to fill the dungeon. Wuju didn't understand anything at all, but if they wanted to capture this turtle, they needed to weaken it first. He raised his head, wondering what to do about the other guys. The plan was to lure them into attacking together, then turn their own plan against them. The big guy lost his cool and charged forward, while a swordsman would attack from behind. They cursed Wuju's hateful, smug attitude as they attacked, but with just 2 fingers, he deflected the attack. He redirected both attacks toward the nearby turtle. The turtle was then hit repeatedly, causing it to roar in pain. Its HP also drains over time. Sensing that something was wrong, Ji-hai told Minji to hurry up and attack too. The young woman swung her staff, shooting out an ice arrow. Countless ice arrows rained down on the battlefield. And just like that, hundreds of ice arrows were redirected to fly straight toward the turtle. The turtle counter-attacked, but it failed. Wuju deliberately acted bored to provoke the men. Enraged, the swordsman unleashed his phoenix technique. The other guy no longer held anything back either. 2 powerful ultimate moves were aimed at Wuju at the same time, intending to reduce him to dust. Wuju snapped his fingers, turning their attack into a vortex. He then continued to spin it, making it stronger and stronger. It was a vortex of energy. When he had compressed it to a manageable size, he hurled it forcefully at the ground. Thanks to Zero's thread, it was aimed straight for the turtle's maw, and fired off. Just this one attack might be enough to kill the turtle instantly. Lucia yelled that she didn't like that. Then she immediately cast her magic. The crowd was dumbfounded, fearing that the turtle was already dead. Wuju was about to prepare his gear to capture the turtle, but when the dust cleared, he saw that it was no longer a turtle. Damn it. What the hell is this? A black turtle of the god race had just appeared. The 1.5 kilometers colossal god Xuanwu has descended. Hiding behind a rock, Sukhai mused that she only came because she heard Jackson had failed, not expecting to see something even more bizarre. Sukhai also saw Lucia, the strongest of the strongest demons, and even the assassin Zero was there. Even the privilege of the Demon King, a dungeon territory, appeared in the Wyvern Gorge. But the most concerning person in this situation turned out to be the school's bookworm and errand boy Kim Wuju. The teammates were stunned, surprised by the unidentified monster and Jaihe's abilities. To be honest, Jaihe didn't know either. There was no monster of that size in the Encyclopedia of Evolution. Jaihe began to believe that she was a special evolution mage. The divine turtle looked down at the swarm of ants below, thinking the place was familiar. It was on its way home in the east when it was suddenly brought to this place. Very quickly, the divine turtle recognized the wretch who had provoked it, and a severe punishment was necessary. The violent swing of a tentacle terrified the people, who told Ji-hai to quickly command it. The blow was aimed at that foolish woman lying over there, annihilated in the blink of an eye. The ground trembled, shattering everything in all directions. The scale of the attack was comparable to a natural disaster. But the surprising thing was, that kid is blocking the divine turtle's strike. Lucia believes her future husband saved her again, probably because he couldn't let go of her dungeon idea. As expected of the magic eyes that see everything, she already knew that Wuju was a broke guy obsessed with money. Wuju just complained that the crazy woman had summoned a monster that could split the earth in 2. This was no longer about money. Lucia said that in the end it would still be about money, which made Wuju a bit pissed off. She intended to use the turtle as the boss for the first floor. It's so unique, so she demanded that Wuju must capture it at all costs. Of course, that's easier said than done. This thing could destroy a nation with just a few steps. But she was right. Xuanwu was truly a one-of-a-kind existence in the game. No one knows what items it will drop, so it's sure to create a massive dungeon raiding trend. Xuanwu found it interesting, because another human was able to withstand its attack. Ji-hai, on the other hand, was trying to command her pet to attack that guy in the red cloak. Xuanwu, its pride wounded by being ordered around by a mere worm, immediately launched an area of effect attack. The sorceress was startled. She felt her entire body being drained. Her mana had dropped straight to 0. All the other players went into a free fall toward the ground. Wuju waved his hand, creating a strong wind, to use the wind to catch the other players and stop them from falling to their deaths, and letting them land safely in the unfinished pit. They even thought they survived because the fall dealt no damage. Ji-hai angrily threatened to give the turtle a good scolding for not recognizing its own master. Xuanwu immediately gathered its magical energy, declaring it would put an end to the luck of the worms below. Wuju teamed up with Zero, jumping onto the thread. Zero gained momentum and pulled hard, launched him into the sky. In the blink of an eye, Wuju approached the turtle's fireball. It realized he was the villager who took the hit earlier, but all it saw was him punching the fireball. The fireball was shot away like a bullet, blowing off half of the turtle's head. And like this too, and then like this. Damn it. A punch that pierces the heavens. It even damaged its steel-like body. The turtle grew a little worried. Wuju told him not to be too surprised, as he would get used to it after meeting Lucia. This time, he only used 1/1000th of his power, afraid that if it were any stronger, the turtle would turn to dust. What nonsense. The turtle proceeds to drain his mana. Sure enough, Wuju was stunned. Down below, everyone could see the attack. The female mage was worried that he might fall. Wuju understood. Unfortunately, he wasn't using MP. The turtle immediately declared that this peasant was all talk. Instead, Xuanwu is a god with extraordinary regenerative abilities. This guy is too dangerous, the turtle thought to itself. I must eliminate him at once. Then it will be the turn of that god blasphemer to end this horrifying tragedy. Wuju was just excited, because he had another reason to capture this beast. To activate the dungeon, and to weaken his body, he needed him. Wuju urged the turtle to hurry up and finish the fight. How arrogant, but the turtle still wanted to give this peasant a chance to repent. After all, he did have some guts. But Wuju immediately refused and cursed the turtle for talking too much. Damn it. This enraged the turtle. It used its full power, attacking with all 10 tails at once. Everyone was stunned by the power of the battle. As for Lucia, she clicked her tongue, praising the promising business. Everyone exclaimed in awe, in disbelief that such a battle could exist. Suddenly, the turtle felt that something was wrong. Sure enough, the fireball the turtle created was blown right back into its face, causing it to explode into 1,000 pieces from its own terrifying power. And again like this, 1,095 more times. In the endless void, the divine turtle, with only a small part of its soul remaining, was lamenting, wondering if it had been completely destroyed. The good news is that it will resurrect itself after 3 years, because it is a god. While it was chattering on, Wuju immediately took out a Pokeball, wanting to capture this Pokemon, and the capture was successful.